Okay, good. And they can only see the slides? Good.
Yes.
Good to go. Okay. Wow. Hi. Welcome. Thank you for your patience with all that stuff. It's I love technical problems in rooms full of testers. Is that we get right down to it. I've been in tech for a long time. I've been there almost 30 years. Next year's my 30th year. And most of that has been as a tester or a test manager. But I pivoted to being a program manager about 10 years ago. At eBay, there was something they called a quality program manager, where as opposed to a product manager deals with the product, right? And features and talking to customers and figuring out what the value of the product is. And there's project managers who look at things about who is doing what by when. And the program manager, though, the role that I took and I've mostly been in since then, is around seeing the biggest picture you could see, is looking at talking with product managers, talking with project managers, talking with testers, talking with developers, talking with business analysts and legal folks, the whole, like everybody on the project, and looking at roadmaps and dependencies. And I found that since being laid off from eBay in January after 13 years and trying to find a role in this market, I was lucky enough to pick up an independent, declare myself an independent consultant, which is actually not what I prefer, but you do what you need to do to find work in this economy. And I was lucky enough to find a small dev studio in Oakland. I live in Seattle, so I could work remotely to become their program manager operations person. But they also didn't have a dedicated quality advocate. So it's a perfect fit. So for the first time in many years, I'm on a project that I'm not only a program manager, wear my program manager hat, but I'm also a test manager again. So I get to learn everything I thought I knew all over again and apply some wisdom and be in that perfect position of a balance of program management and testing. So this talk is about a certain kind of perspective that I want to talk about. And let me see if I can advance here. All right. So welcome to Portland. There's lots to do here. We can, here at the hotel, we can sit around the pool and we can do a chemical analysis of the pool, and we can look at the algae kind of growth at the pool, and we can look at the pool from different sides, or we can feel the humidity from the pool. There's so much to do in Portland that it's just a wonder. I like it. No wonder people love it here. Especially water activities. I mean, a kayaking, I'm sure they might entertain some kayak. All right, so you see there's a feature in Google Maps called things to do. So let's see what happens there. Okay, this is more like it. When we zoom out, we see a lot more options, don't we? And this is more like it. Like this is more like welcome to Portland. Even out in the lobby, there's brochures, right, for people who are new to Portland, and you can learn things about those brochures about like chocolate tasting that are specific to the city. Then you can zoom out, and there's a brochure for about the valley that we're in, and there's a brochure for the state of Eastern Oregon. There's a brochure. There's even a brochure for the state of Oregon. So different perspectives as we get a different level of granularity. And so here we are with this notion of DevOps that you've seen before. This is a classic model of either shifting toward the developer side or shifting more to the operations side. So this is the classic representation, where when they say shift left, it means you're moving testing closer to where code really happens, or you're moving it closer to the customer. A lot of people call this usability testing, for example, is one flavor of shifting right. Scenario testing, end-to-end testing, things like that. So with that model, my take on this whole shift left idea of, oh, if only we had caught it when we were writing code, it wouldn't have been such a problem. It wouldn't have been such a mistake. So that my take on shift left is where it comes to building and planning and test pipeline. I think on the furthest left, you really have a couple of things to consider. What I think it's really about is getting toward causes of things and also getting toward where the idea is first born, right? The ideation stage. On the right side, we have this notion of what bad things might happen if we don't do certain things before that. And this notion of completion. You just heard Jeff say, did we build the right thing and did we build it right? And I think what we all have to wrestle with is how we spend our time. So it's left and right seems like it could be described as something very linear. You have things that have causes, and because of those causes, you have consequences. Seems very simple. But here's something that occurred to me was really interesting in my work. That sometimes the shifting left means trying to make decisions as soon as possible about how things are supposed to be to lead to the right completed product. So seems pretty straightforward. Causes and ideas on the left and consequences and completion on the right. So what I think what people mean when they shift right is you're trying to delay the decision because you need more information when it comes to ideas and completion. In other words, I want to say something controversial. Procrastination may pay off, right? Have you seen this? I mean, people give us a hard time. All humans seem to give all other humans a hard time about procrastination and the consequences of procrastination. But how many times have you delayed something and benefited because you delayed, right? Let me put you in the seat sometimes that I'm in. John, we need this report. We need it today. See what you can do in a few hours. And it's really crucial. There's a meeting at 3. It's now noon. Do what you can do. Here's the here's the information that we need. So I absolutely start. Go. And then you are 90 minutes in, and the meeting is canceled. Right? Well, I'm like, if only I had put it off. Right? Until the last responsible moment. You've heard that before. So the trick is not, is procrastination good or bad? The question becomes, when might it be an advantage to delay a decision? And that's, I think, where the shifting right happens. There are some things you can't know until you have this notion of completion, until it's out there. You just heard Jeff, if you were in the previous session, say that some of their lessons were, here are the things we could automate, here are the things we just couldn't automate no matter what, right? All right, so that's the premise for this talk, is this, you've heard this a lot, I'm sure. You shift left, and the idea being, if we could only have found that sooner, and you shift right because there's things you can't find in developers, and customers are the key to the right kind of feedback that we need. All right, so hard to believe, but it was just this January where this famous flight 1282 Alaska Airlines out of Portland flying to Ontario, California, took off, and I believe it was 10 minutes or so after being airborne, one of the doors, the door plug to be exact, was compromised, right? In midair, in flight, that door blows out and causes a serious problem. All right, that's 1282. I don't know why. Anyways, I'm hearing noise, so if you're online, if you could mute, please. All right. Now, the shifting left part of this is looking at causes, right? Origins, the assembly line, inspectors, even things like psychological safety. Did somebody feel comfortable saying, we found a problem here? Something almost no one talks about in our business is, and again, another allusion to Jeff's talk before mine. And one of his slides was a reference to like a downtrend of bugs. Well, won't you have a downtrend of bugs if people are afraid to file them? Right? So counting bugs, as you might agree, is not an optimal way to measure quality. So, but that's something you can study when you move to causes, right? And it's having information to know that there's a problem and being able to solve it, of course, and wanting to solve it, right? That's the part of the psychological safety. On the right side, okay, toward the customer side, if you will, the after the incident happens, the National Transportation Safety Board, that's when they look at maintenance logs and actually they found something. It indicated that a pressure controller light had illuminated on 3 previous flights. Isn't that interesting? Maybe that matters, maybe it doesn't. But that's the juxtaposition between left and right. Okay. So this talk is about shifting out, but to talk about shifting out, I need to talk about shifting in a bit. So there is an idea of, just like in the beginning slide, we're shifted pretty in to the pool, right? Which has usefulness. If you want to do, if somebody is, a lot of the hotel guests are I don't know, getting ill after swimming, you may want to zoom in on the pool, right? But if you want to know what can I do in Portland, you're a little too far in. So in this case, shifting in, you are looking at the details. You might make a situation room of assembling all these details. You're trying to figure out play by play, moment by moment, what happened. There are these lug bolts for the door. Can we? What are they supposed to look like when they're good? Could they find the ones that are missing? It's also understanding how the work happens. Maybe there's checklists that people go through. Are they being read correctly and followed correctly? Maybe the people on the line are being given too much work. What are they told to do versus what they actually do? All this is shifting in and getting there. Now, as a program manager, after having been a tester for so many years, and then shifting to a program manager role, working with everybody on the team to do things like roadmaps and cut lines and budgets and allocations and talking to legal and talking to biz dev, I've learned that being a program manager, and if you're out of work or thinking you need to pivot pretty soon, I really do recommend program management because it's just like testing. Instead of finding bugs in a product, you're revealing risks on a project and multiple projects. But it's the same mindset. What could go wrong with this stunt, right? But you're still developing relationships with people. You're still like a journalist. You're looking for, the truth of what this effort is, this initiative or this set of products. All right. I don't know if you can see this in the room, but Any guesses on what this is? This is a little dot.
The North Star.
The North Star. That's a really good guess. You're really close.
Sirius?
Sirius. Sirius is the brightest star, right? Isn't that the North Star? Is that the one and the same? Right? No? Oh, I thought they were. Oh, okay. All right. So some astronomical thing. Other guesses?
SpaceX reentry.
SpaceX re-entry. Yeah, seen from where? The ground. International Space Station. It's another good guess. All right. Good. What? Earth from where? Earth from Saturn. It's a great guess. And this photo was taken by Voyager as it was programmed. I guess one of the last commands it had was to look back as it passed Saturn. And Carl Sagan remarked about how profound a zoom out this was, talking about zooming out. And okay, we're way too far out to know what to do in Portland at this view, right? But doesn't it hit you like all we've ever known, ever done, ever been, ever will be is on that little pixel?
That's crazy.
And that's crazy. Thank you. Thank you, Toad. That's crazy. And it was the ultimate shift out. So telescopic. Now we went from shifting in to now shifting. So let's go back to Flight 1282. So here we are with a public record, the NTSB report, and they have a tough job to see. So they'll shift left, they'll shift right. They have the microscope, right? They're looking at the metallurgy, and now it's time for like more of the program manager view, the shifting out. I shouldn't just say program manager because testers do this too, right? And let me talk about that. So one way outward is like policies, like safety on the line, right? When things are being assembled, things that affect people's behaviors. That could also hint at a bad strategy or a better strategy. It could also hint toward opportunities for how things are done in sequence and order, timelines, and how systems come together. That's what program management is to me. It's systems, just like software systems, overlaid and juxtaposed and interposed. And my job as a program manager is to deconstruct that and find risks in the same way that the NTSB does. All right, but a question to ask is, well, as you guessed what that pixel might be, if it's the International Space Station, from what perspective? Usually the ground, because it'll look like a dot. That's a pretty good guess. Who's looking? Somebody who thinks that Sirius and the North Star are the same thing, because they're not, apparently. And now that I educated on that, it's an opportunity, and this is a good example. It's like, wait, why wouldn't they be the same thing? So it's an opportunity for me to learn from other people and go back and say, how might that have caused me to make a mistake in my analysis? Okay? So what problem, in other words, what problem am I trying to solve? What is that white dot? What might it be? Because I need to sound and I need to be credible, because that gives me autonomy and license to do things that I feel need to be done. So for the NTSB investigator, it's, well, they've got to decide what to go into the report, and are there politics and legal implications? And are there any other forces that are guiding the report? This is like the meta aspect of what it means to investigate something. So these are the things that they decide. Just so happens, by the way, that when I was laid off in eBay and I'm trying to find other work, I live on an island north of Seattle called Whidbey Island. And I have a journalism degree that I'm not using and have been using for years. And there's a local paper. And I decided to volunteer to write stories for the paper. And I found that as I do write little arts and event stories about the island and like cider festivals and music festivals and whatnot, my one way to write the story is, here's the event, here's the date, here's the time, here's who's going to be there, go have fun. Another way to do it is to include that, but also pick something about that event, especially if it's a charitable event and the money's going to some kind of charity. Is say, why are you doing this? What do you want people to know? What's different than last year? And to make it not just, there's an event, decide to go based on who's going to be there and but the ethos of the event, right? So I like that once a week, I'll do one or two stories about something that my editor and publisher will say, can you go cover this? One way to come back is just the facts, date, time. But another way is to look behind the story and see why anybody would really want to go. Is there something they're not telling you about the event that they could if they were just asked? All right. So for getting back to this notion of what does a quality program manager do? Now, my last role at eBay was my favorite. It was on a platform called Seek. Now, when you go to eBay, there's the header, and this is a feature called My eBay, by the way. And I just grabbed the screenshot. Up in this corner, there's a link called Tell Us What You Think. So ultimate shift right? We want to know, what is the customer feeling and thinking about this particular feature, My eBay. And maybe it's the watch list feature, right? You find an item on eBay, you favorite it, it goes on a watch list, so you can see what's going on. All right, when you click Tell Us What You Think, this form comes up, says share your thoughts on My eBay summary, right? Which is the page that we're on. And there's a thumbs up, thumbs down, and there's a verbatim text box of whatever that is. I can't really, is it 1,000 characters, something like that? Yeah. And then they click submit, and then 12 seconds later, I can see what you submitted. So there's a portal, I log into the portal, and I see data coming. I can see data in real time. Every time I refresh, I see a new record, right? And so the tester, my tester heart is like, this is gold. This is absolute gold, because they could say, yes, I like this, or no, this sucks, and be done. And that's not very useful. But customers use this form to talk about technical issues too, because why not? It's right there. So I gravitated to that because that was the fun part. So I'm in ultimate right mode, right? But sometimes there would be an issue that would be reported, and I would be like, hey, just below that, and just below that, and just below that, that people are reporting the same thing. Watch list maybe is really slow today. Like, why is it taking 10 seconds to when I add something to my watch list? So now I see a pattern, and now I have an opportunity to shift left. For example, did we just roll? Did we just release or uprev to site? Did the watch list team just do something? Now, all I got to do is go on Slack and hit up someone I know on the watch list team. Like, did you guys just release? Yeah. Why? You may want to see a signal. And Wayne Roseberry is going to talk about signals later in the conference. We have a signal. And so I would take opportunities to lean on the relationships I had built over 13 years at eBay. Like, we all can say we know somebody. I know somebody at Intel. I know somebody at HP. Especially if you're looking for work, that's what you want to do, right? You want to not only apply for the job, but see who you know there and say, hey, I just applied for this. This is the power of your relationship. And so that's why it was my favorite role. It was shifting left, it was shifting right, but also shifting in and shifting out. So left is, again, root causes of, you think about what could go wrong. We learn from reality, right, as problems occur. Then we figure out, we go inside the dev process. For example, did you just release? And we kind of confront details. And then maybe we have to go outside of dev all the way. We go to maybe some business process or security or legal or some kind of maybe it's monthly maintenance that operations is doing that competed with something that was happening by another team. So we focus on the entire solution landscape. All right. So one of the things that I wanted to do this talk at this conference for this very reason, because I think I'm onto something. I had such fun in this role, and I felt it to be so valuable, especially as testers are under attack. Our very role from AI. Of course, we always have the automation threat. Like, why don't you just automate everything? You heard Jeff talking about software as a service, and now QA as a service, and all these different existential threats from the important aspect of testing being what is the truth of things. And I've noticed in my work that maybe there's something you can use here too. That I considered myself at the intersection of engineering, business, and customers. And so I drew this Venn, thinking like, okay, I want to do this talk and talk about program management and talk about how I'm still at heart a tester and a journalist and what shifting in and left and out and right mean, of course. But I think there's an opportunity to upsell this kind of role at your company, if not already. Now, again, if it already exists at your company, talk to me, because I haven't heard anybody say anything about this role. This is what I did. I was kind of a business intelligence program manager. I was a data synthesizer. I was kind of a data analysis whisperer to have like figuring out all the stuff that came in. If you click submit, like tell us what you think, you fill in your verbatim, you give it a Likert scale or whatever, 1 to 5 or thumbs up, thumbs down, you click submit, that all goes into a database, right? And there was a feature of Seek, again, the survey platform, where we enabled any team at eBay to do a survey. Like we would help them develop it, write the code, and then we'd say, okay, it's up to you. It goes live. The problem, though, is let's say you do that. You're a good product manager. You're listening to the customers. It's now 3 months later. You got what you wanted, and now the data's stale. And there's maybe hundreds of surveys that are still live. Some of which are like all of which may be getting data. Some of which may not be. Again, so you go from being a product manager, even on the Seek platform, to taking more of an attitude of maybe we could be the platform, which is a product of the survey, but also services. Like, what are we learning from this? We could just hand it to the product developers and product managers, and they could figure it out. But I like seeing patterns and escalating those. So here's what I'm calling it: customer advocacy and response engineering.
We'll update it today.
So what can we learn from customers, and what are we doing about it? And again, if you're already doing this role, or there's a role like this at your company, I want to know about it, because I really think that I could write more content about this, not only a LinkedIn post, but I could start my blog up again. I've written the paper for PNSQC, but I think there's a wonderful opportunity here when we talk about the relationships between business and engineering. What do they care about? Investment trade-offs. That's one of the things I thought of. You could probably think of other things too. But in my work, that was a big line of inquiry. Between business and customers, it's about what a customer needs, what does the business needs. Engineering and customers, customers want support, and but how? What kind of support and when? So looking at those patterns of shifting out and seeing each sphere. Now you could argue these are silos, right? And silos are bad. No, silos aren't bad. Silos are great. Silos give us focus and integrity and identity. But if that's all we do all the time, we miss other opportunities, right? Which is, I think, is why people say, oh, you decry the silos being bad. So as somebody outside of many silos, hovering over, like shifting over, like looking down on Portland from 40,000 feet, I can see, oh, there's a bridge, and there's a bridge, and there's a bridge, and there's a bridge, and I see somebody else building a bridge with like some, balsa wood or some oak or something. I'm like, wait, no, there's a bridge way up here. Here's the technology they used. Would that be useful to you? And they're like, yeah, wait, where'd you see that? I'm like, yeah, zoom out. See that bridge up there? So it's things like that. It's looking at every silo and knowing that they're busy and they have to focus, they have to specialize. That's their identity. Like there's a million features on eBay. There's a million features probably in your product too. And you have to zero in and get that done. So someone like me comes along and says, I want to try to help you, be more efficient. All right. So I want to rock through this. I'll give you an example. So my brother James is developing this testing tool. And I was going to give an analysis. I just wanted to talk to him about like some problems that he found. Okay, so one of the problems he told me is so he's making this tool that records things that happen as you're testing on the browser and logs them to a database, right? All kinds of events and machine states and different things. Okay, so I said, just talk to me about some problems that you found. Okay, well, at first he didn't know how to make a browse extension. Okay, so that's right at the idea level. So again, there's left and right. A pop-up wouldn't talk to the container script. The click listener wouldn't load. He couldn't access the current tab from a pop-up. The workload on it worked on a simple site, but not a complex one. Apparently, eBay is a complex site. It wouldn't work on eBay to the way he thought it would. He needed to track data attributes. He had to remove app mapping because that was causing a problem. Was no sense of how much memory was used. The recordings that were taken were for different users, were mixed into the same pool. And there were times where every site got recorded, even though he didn't intend for that to happen. So you see that most of it, you could argue, is, it's all that stuff was found like too late, right? But wait, maybe that's the only way they could have been found. Like this is natural human learning. There are times where there are obstacles that prevent you from discovering something. Now, does that mean we shouldn't be like an NTSB investigator and figure out what could we do differently next time? Absolutely, that's right. So you see a lot of the stuff he caught on the right side, more toward like me as a tester when he had something ready for me to test. I'm the customer. I'm like, show me your test tool. So you go from creating functions to verifying notions of these solutions. But my point is you can't have that without thinking, well, does anyone really need this? So from functionality to solutions. So I interviewed him a little bit more about this. So again, the first problem being didn't know how to make extensions. He said, I copied an example from the Microsoft website to start. I didn't have an idea of how to create an extension. So he said, maybe I should have taken a class or studied for 5 hours. He just started doing it. So these are my notes as he's talking. These are my raw journalistic notepad, right? You don't know what you don't know. Have you heard that before? Okay, good. I'm glad you did. So, all right. For this next one, which is the pop-up wouldn't talk to the container script. It took a long time to figure this one out. To know for sure, he said I had to run end-to-end and run it as an extension, okay? For this problem, the click listener wouldn't load. I had to figure out why it wasn't loading. I found it through trying it out. So call that a sanity test. He wasn't trying to solve a problem. He said he wasn't thinking at the tester level. So he, one of the most famous testers in the world, was in developer mode, right? And I'll assert to you, sometimes they're orthogonal. We all are. We have to create reports. So we're a developer of reports, so to speak. We don't want someone looking over our shoulder when we're typing a report because we're not done yet. We're not ready for it to be seen yet. So there's a time and a place, right? And so he is in developer mode. So he wasn't thinking at the tester level, at least at that time. So, but he says he doesn't need to be. He's in creator mode, okay? So for this problem, he couldn't access the current tab. I was trying to make certain things happen by including JS in the pop-up, and it wasn't working. So I finally looked closely at the error messages, and it was because for security reasons, you can't do that. So he says, I suppose I could have read about it to save time. And I won't go through every one of these, but suffice it to say, as with me as an NTSB investigator, so to speak, I wanted to plot these and see where we were, because ultimately the point I want to leave you with is a strategy for when something like this happens. When leadership, for example, says, "We'll just build a GPT to give us all this data in a few seconds, and we'll automatically be smarter, or we'll have more value, or we'll be competitive." Okay, but that's the value of the solution. It's not about the data or the speed. It's the ability to look at what the result is, what is being returned, and to frame it with the right insights and assist with an appropriate response, right? I'm not against AI. What I'm against is non-critical attitudes of AI. AI needs to be tested and discovered, the different flavors of truth, left, right, in, out. What is that entire piece of what the solution is meant to do? Not an irrational exuberance that it did one amazing thing one time. It's got to do it again. It's got to do it in different contexts. It's got to do it reliably. It's got to do it to build confidence. It's got to do it without risk, reasonable risks. So it's a bit contrived, this next slide, so forgive me. I know you hear mnemonics all the time at software conferences, and I'm guilty as anybody. But I started thinking, what can I leave you with if you remember like one thing from my message? And that is the value of once in a while shifting way out. So it's OUT, outlook. I thought, all right, if I'm in John's talk and I'm sitting there as a tester, and I just wanted to like, okay, what should I leave this room with? Is all right, just remember what's the right perspective to have. It may be to shift in, but it's whatever, it's getting an outlook on the bigger picture. It's understanding that you don't have enough knowledge to be credible yet, or you're not ready for actions by others. On the other hand, you could have enough to be useful. So what's the outlook? What's my understanding of it? And then testers usually don't get involved in treatment, right? We don't get involved in the fix. We just find stuff. We'll let business and product management and legal sort it out, right? Unless you are very passionate about it coming back as deferred, won't fix, by design. We can swallow that. Go, it's your funeral. Or we can say, no, it's your funeral. You will die. And I'm going to fight for, there's another way. Let me show you what the competing product is doing. And like, this is possible. And we have to respond. So you become not just a tester, but a quality advocate, right? Which maybe you've done before. And if you have, again, let me know, because I'm collecting data around this. So outlook, understanding, treatment. And again, I could look at all of these in aggregate, and as a program manager say, all right, what can I take away from all these little problems? So last slide. So I think when you as testers, when I have a tester have shifted out, I tend to see more critical dependencies. I tend to discover useful project patterns like the bridge, like don't build a bridge out of this, build it out of this, consider it, right? You don't have to tell them do this. You can say, here's not a best practice, but here's a practice. Here's a practice. Here's one practice to consider. I want to prevent accidental reinvention, right? I want to help apply lessons from past incidents, because it's embarrassing when we do the same thing over again and we should have learned. Well, there's good reasons why we didn't learn. I bet you'd be able to advocate better courses of action. You'll develop relationships. You'll develop skill. You'll find better classes of bugs, and you'll earn respect and credibility. All right. I know I've given you a lot to think about. There's a lot in my head when I wrote this deck and wrote the paper, and there was a lot when I was in that role at eBay. And what I'm trying to do is find a company that will let me do that. And if I'm successful, I will come back, hopefully be invited back to tell you what happened. But for now, I'm an independent consultant. I have a testing mindset. I have a program management mindset. And I'd like to hear from you. What do you think of this? And is there like one thing you're taking away or advice or question for me that I could answer in the, I don't know, couple of minutes we have left? And I think people online, you can just unmute and do whatever. All right, how did this hit you? Any questions?
There's a point of clarification. The show time is online, the one that's online, and this session does not end until 11:20.
11:20. Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, good. Well, I'm happy to give you some time back, as they say, and go breathe and explore the pool. You can explore the pool.
Yeah, we apologize. The printed program that you may be looking at, they're in error. Please look at the one online. This program at a glance at nstc.org under conference 2024.
Got it. So if we had that much, so what I'll do is this: I'll take 3 questions, right? If online 2, or comments, right? Because I'm a student of this craft, not only of testing but of program management too. This is, yeah, I've been doing this for a minute, but I'm under no illusion that I'm like this, be all expert about it. I still feel like even at the last speaker, Jeff, I'm like, yep, oh, that's cool. Using software as a service as a paradigm to think about how we could be a better quality assistance service. I want to pick that guy's brain. And thank you, Jeff. I have a lot of notes. It was just a great talk. So same thing. We're at a conference because we're shifted out. We're out of our own individualism as a silo, and we're getting the bigger picture of what's out there to learn. And I just learned something from Jeff in the last time. So,
May I answer a leading question?
yes.
It appears to me a lot of the paradigm you refers to are actually paradigms in hardware you see, and especially like inspecting mechanical doors. To what extent are many of the things you're talking about actually traditional quality assurance paradigms from the hardware world?
I don't know. I haven't ever done hardware and QC, but I've read all of the classic literature about manufacturing and Six Sigma and General Electric and assembly lines and different notions of very tactile ways to find a problem. Like they call them defects, right? And in software, I don't like the term defect because it implies that it's an easy fix. Like, in fact, I think that's what the president of Boeing said about Flight 1282. It was a quality escape, is what he said, if I remember correctly. So it's like a thing that went from here to here. It's not here anymore. It got away from us. Whereas in software, it's a tangled web of neurology, of neurons and synapses that you have to untangle. Of course, there's all kinds of wonderful paradigms in manufacturing, but I guess the shifting out part of it for me would be that classic, did we build the right thing we were supposed to build?
Yeah, one possible useful paradigm to compare with is how people test microelectronic circuits, because there's a logical layer, there's a layout layer of possible defects, and then of course there's actual manufacturing defects because of the microelectronic processing, and
Sure,
they're kind of a nested network of quality considerations. And when you say shifting in and inspecting by zooming in, I mean, if you do microelectronics, you literally have to use a microscope to look at
a scanning, tunneling electron microscope to see that the amalgam used for the copper alloy between for the solder didn't have the right ratio of silver to but something like that, right?
That's at the macro level.
That's
Where you need a wire bond. The microelectronic circuit themselves, you need an electron microscope, and you may do non-contact voltage contrast. There are many things
Very cool.
in those type of paradigms that seem to relate to your considerations.
Very good. Yeah. Yes, Michael.
I'd like to offer 2 visions. Seems to be
The center,
the center.
the joystick at rest. What is the joystick at rest? Tell me about that.
We're in the,
And then I will definitely pass it on to my boss.
in between the left and the right,
Mhm.
and in between the zooming in and the zooming out. So that's something that seems to me to be missing, but then I'd like to offer a way to maybe restore that.
Hmm.
And to consider this overlaid on top of the development process, not as a loop, not as a line, but as a fractal.
Hmm.
Every single activity that we perform in development, it seems to me that at whatever level of zoom we're looking, we can zoom farther in, we can zoom farther out, we
Mhm.
can look a little to its left, we can look a little to its right. We pop up a little. So here's what I mean. We can be looking at a feature this. We can be looking at a story, a user story.
Yeah.
That finds a bunch of features. We can zoom into the feature and we can look at the functions that afford.
This is where now I get it. Now I'm seeing the fractal part.
Yeah.
Because you could take any element of a software project and use the joystick. Like, let's say you have a Jira ticket, or right, or a test. You come up with a test. How do you know that test is useful right now? What are the elements of the test? What configuration are you going to test on? And how often are you going to run the test? So you're right. I guess you could look at the whole complement of what's in front of you and say, I'm going to zoom in there, or I want to see what the origin is, or I'm going to procrastinate. I want to wait and see. But I'm still losing what's the joystick at rest. If we're not, you're saying we have no zoom level.
What I'm saying is, let's think of pushing down the joystick.
Pushing physically down on the joystick.
Physically down on the joystick, take us down to a deeper level. Because within those functions, there's also single lines of code, each of which has a shift left, shift right, shift in, shift out.
Oh, okay. So now I'm seeing a different paradigm. Instead of shifting in and seeing more detail, you're saying there's a strata or levels of things to look at, and you push the joystick down to go to that level. And on that level, you can decide to shift left, in, or right. It doesn't have to be linear, but more kind of spirally or
Right, or a
interesting.
three-dimensional fractal of this two-dimensional pattern that we're seeing.
I would have to do something like I did with James and do like an analysis of what problems he found and a discussion to see how I can make something like that work. But I think you're onto something, because it's because the Earth doesn't just go around the sun, because the sun is also in motion and we're kind of spiraling together in space.
The moon.
And so we actually are at a different place in time than we were a year ago, which, I mean, I know we're really reaching here, but there could, at the program management level, at least where I want to be, there actually could be a really interesting way to talk about this, to say, have we ever, had a legal consequence for something, maybe in the terms and conditions, that we didn't realize was actually could be a software testing issue, something we could have caught earlier? Or why did these terms and conditions exist? What bug happened that caused legal to put them in there? That might be a spirally kind of thing to zoom in and out of.
And the middle part is, how are we maintaining awareness of where we're at with respect to all of these?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, all of this is different degrees of awareness, I would assert to you. Great. Yes, Mike.
Yeah, so I got one comment, like basically in organization when I work, it's oriented about building HVAC products.
HVAC?
Yeah, and the house heating. So, we are moving from only building like heating devices to also have the IoT platform. And we do the shifting out. What we do is based on the quality control that exists in industrial manufacturing, we extend that team with the software experts. So I'm one of the members of that team. So I'm totally not involved in software delivery itself. I'm just assessing the outcomes of the process. So it's quality assurance is all three bricks that you have on the top. Mine is totally separated. I'm even not a part of the R&D department.
Got it.
That's external quality management or quality engineering department. And what is interesting, my focus is fully on the field issues and issues that come from the customer.
From the customers.
So, and then I'm assessing if it could be catched earlier, but I'm not investigating the quality assurance or the development process. That's the part of the R&D department.
Yeah.
So then I'm not doing I can do the advising on the shifting left, right, or shifting in, but that's their responsibility. I'm fully focused only on the shifting out.
Yeah.
And then I'm
That makes
shifting
sense.
out on the component level, subsystem level, or the whole landscape of system level.
So when you say HVAC though, and IoT, you mean something like a Nest, which is the, you know,
It's like basically for us, it's like you can buy a gas boiler, you can buy a heat pump or a power management control system or solar panels, and then you can combine all of them and have a mobile application to control all of them.
got it. Okay.
So
That's good.
for us. So system is like multiple devices in one system with the IoT software application too.
Cool.
And also the installers, so not only the users, but the installers are also using a dedicated mobile app.
So several overlapping systems, each of which needs a different
Yes,
perspective.
yeah,
that's
yes.
great.
And then we
It's cool.
combine like manufacturing, software development, and then building the system certification and the quality control.
Okay.
John, there's
That's
a
good.
request for you to go back one previous slide.
Yes.
And I don't know if there's a question.
I'm not looking at the chat, by the way. So Ying, yeah, if you can.
Yeah, John, I just wanted to go through the points which you made as part of a program manager and in a
Yes.
test view. So yeah.
Yeah, you'll be my last question.
I didn't have any questions, but the slide went very fast. I wanted to
Oh, you just want to see
all
more
the
of it.
points what you made
Yeah.
make more sense. Yeah, that's why I wanted this slide to be
Great.
shown. Thanks.
Thank you for doing that. I bet a lot of people, did go fast this side. By the way, one of the things that I didn't mention is on the Seek platform, and we get your customer data or your customer reports, some of which had some metadata, like if you like what browser you're on and some other context that we got through Qualtrics. Right? I would tag the report, the verbatims that I saw with like, well, this is watch list, or this is about search, or this is about, you know, customers is happy, is unhappy. So I just come up with tags of features like this sentiment is about watch list. And I was doing it so I could get a sense of what some opportunities were there to talk to teams and build relationships, right? Well, I worked with a data engineer and he said, John, what you're doing, your tags, as stuff come, because I got really obsessed. Like I would look sometimes at my desk and just watch, hit refresh. There's a new one. Oh, okay, what is this? Oh yeah, I know about this. Hit refresh. It's like my lunch hour thing. It's just like real time. And I would often be a leading indicator, right? Like I said, if watch list is lighting up, call operations, did you just release? Yeah, we just rolled. Okay, cool. I'm seeing a correlation here. He said about a month into it, I started to get, I felt guilty that I wasn't doing as much. I started to get burned out, right? And he goes, you've basically written a corpus for an LLM. I can make an LLM out of your tags, and I can teach a bot to do what you do. And I'm like, well, you know, I can't trust AI right now, but do it, and let's test it, right? So he did. And in fact, we call it the John bot. And he taught it to do what I was doing. And by this time, it was a couple of thousand data points he had, because I was obsessed for a couple of months of tagging everything. And so at first, the John bot was awful. It was like, really? And he's like, I know, but it kept learning. And he'd find a way to make it learn. After another couple of months, I noticed that I was having to do less and less guiding of the John bot and with Tim, the data engineer. And it was beginning to actually come up with some reasonable ways to tag things. Like, this is watch list. And I would go, it is. You think so? Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's watch list. Good job, John bot. And so that's why I want to emphasize, because some will say that me and my small community of rapid software testers are anti-AI. But no, there are some advantages when you are responsible and measured about how you integrate. But thank you all for being here. I had a great time, and we'll see you at the conference.